And now you're doing a record for Columbia.
Yeah, it's coming out in March.
And what's it going to be called?
Bob Dylan, I think.
This is a young man who grew out of a need. He came here, he came to be as he is, because things needed saying, and the young people were the ones who wanted to say them, and they wanted to say them in their own way. He somehow had an ear on his generation, and he has set a pace and is now, well, he's now continuing in the same way, and there are many others that are joining him. I don't have to tell you, you know him, he's yours, Bob Dylan.
This is Carl. It's all right, Ma. I'm only bleeding. Ho, ho, ho.
This young man was born in Duluth, Minnesota. He started playing the guitar when he was just a child of 10, but he says it didn't do him too much good in high school. He says the only trouble with playing guitar is you don't get cheerleader girls. He is now one of the most sought-after folk artists. I think one of the reasons for his popularity is that he has the mind of a poet.
When I was a kid at school, that's all I wanted to be, really, was Bob Dylan.
One of the things that happened was the rules were being broken. No longer was it a matter of singing Earth Angel and Rock Around the Clock. You had people like Bob Dylan. He's one of the great examples of someone who studied and knew the songs of all the 50s bands and knew all the blues writing and began to write in his own way, and other songwriters began to do the same thing, writing about current politics.
How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea?
We were not in competition. We were students of the same muse. If somebody did a song of yours, well, you were blown away that they would even think, that your song was important enough to do.
How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
I remember Bobby Dylan was living with me in Woodstock for the summer when Blowing in the Wind came out, and there was a sense of the enormous moment of the linkage of the music to the political movements of our time.
That movement of the 60s really had a huge impact on my consciousness when I was a child. I was very aware of the civil rights movement and the part that the music played in it. And the music was part of the culture. You'd go to the rallies and you'd hear the music.
Dylan was the king of folk music at that time, and he went over to England and met with the Beatles. He said, you guys, you don't say anything. You have nothing to say. And it really shocked Lennon. Lennon really, he really was taken back by this because he was a tremendous admirer of Dylan's. And he started writing more intellectual lyrics after that. And by the same token, Dylan started experimenting with music more. So the two of them really influenced each other in a profound way.
Monterey is very groovy, man. This is something, man. This is our generation, man. All you people, we're all together, man. It's groovy. And dig yourselves, because it's really groovy.
What began as a small scene in Greenwich Village had turned into a cultural revolution.
The suit and tie men were not part of that show, and since there was not a commercial element, it was really up from the people. And that was unprecedented. We're going to do a show, and it's not about money or sales. It's for free. And everybody did work for free except Ravi Shankar, who came from India with his sitar and had to make $3,000.
Monterey was the first time Hendrix ever played for an American audience. It was the first time Otis Redding ever played for a white audience. It was the first time the San Francisco groups had ever played for an international audience outside the city limits of San Francisco.
Woodstock gets the lion's share of the attention, but this was the real groundbreaker. It legitimized rock and roll as a concert art form.
So we tried to find the most talented people who hadn't been exposed.
I first met Janis backstage at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and I'd been told that if I went back to the backstage entrance, the artist entrance, that I would get in free. Then the door opened, and Janis was standing there, and said, "Hey, Eric, welcome to the Fillmore," And she shook my hand, and as I pulled my hand away, I looked and there was a hit of LSD in my hand, And I just...
Sun came along, 100 grams to hold up, and it felt like a ball and chain. But all right, heavy promise to lead time, And don't say, oh, honey, this can't be. Well, this can't be thing. I said,
I was so affected by what had happened at Monterey. I knew it was going to herald a social revolution. It was the purest form of love and peace and caring I had ever witnessed before or since.
It was, peace, love, and flowers.
And there was a great sense of, there's a future. There's a future for us all, even though, the world was in flames over in Asia.
Y la cultura inglesa se expandió por el mundo. La píldora trajo consigo el sexo sin miedo al embarazo, la homosexualidad se legalizó y la censura en los cines desapareció.
Los 60 fueron responsables de algunos de los mejores movimientos en arte, danza, mímica, música y teatro.
La sociedad de consumo floreció. La mitad de los ingleses tenían casa propia y cada vez eran más los que veraneaban en el extranjero.
De repente, con los Beatles, ya no íbamos a ser como nuestros padres.
Los Beatles fueron el motor de esta transformación.
I Want to Hold Your Hand. Cuando la oí, mi vida cambió.
Esta serie trata la revolución cultural y social que supusieron los 60. Los Beatles se convirtieron en símbolo de la década. 4 chavales de Liverpool que se enfrentaron al sistema establecido y ganaron. El mundo no volvería a ser el mismo.
Que la gente tenía miedo de que acabaran los 60, de que el tiempo se estaba acabando. Y todos sabían que los 60 eran algo especial. El último año de la década de los 60 fue una época neurótica en la que la gente se decía, vaya, ¿en serio va a acabar todo en Nochevieja? ¿Se va a detener? Adiós a los 60. Y de alguna forma el Let It Be de los Beatles está cargado de ese sentimiento de lamento. Sobre todo la voz de McCartney expresa una pena acorde con el hecho de que acabaran los 60.
El año continuó y diversos sucesos internacionales pronosticaron el advenimiento de un mundo más siniestro y caótico. Por un lado estaban los disturbios de Irlanda del Norte, una nueva era de lucha sangrienta. Por el otro, la glamurosa actriz Sharon Tate y 4 amigas suyas fueron brutalmente asesinadas por miembros de la secta de Charles Manson. Para mucha gente este fue el momento en que el sueño de los 60 se tornó en pesadilla.
Fue horrible. Fue una acumulación de cosas y una dura presión que nos acechaba. Ya no podías colocarte y ser feliz todo el rato. Y por un breve periodo así fue la vida. Estabas ocupado, te sentías creativo, tenías muchísima libertad, te colocabas. Eras feliz, había mucho sexo, todo eso. Era una vida fantástica y la realidad se impuso de pronto.
Pero en Inglaterra durante un tiempo la banda siguió tocando.
London. More than 250,000 fans of the Rolling Stones gathered in Hyde Park for a free show by the group who make their kind of music. It was a show that went on despite the recent death of founder Stones member Brian Jones. The other Stones and their followers believe he would have wanted it that way. So they came not to mourn, but to enjoy the sort of music that Brian Jones had helped to create.
Siempre se dijo que lo que había pasado era una revolución. Yo fui al concierto de los Rolling Stones en Hyde Park en 1969, donde casi todo el mundo estaba fumando marihuana, y había una enorme nube de ella cuando Mick Jagger salió al escenario con su vestido de chica y la palabra revolución estaba en boca de todos. Los Beatles escribieron un tema llamado Revolution. Existía la noción de que tras esto había una intención política seria, pero no era así. Fue una revolución de estilo y actitud social, pero no venía de la mano de pensamientos políticos serios.
Not everybody understands the youngsters who like this kind of music, but then it wouldn't do if everyone had the same tastes, would it?
Los de mi generación, los que crecimos en los 60, ahora estamos en el poder. Y si lees entre líneas en el Telegraph, el Guardian y el Times, todo lo que se dice sobre política tiene la actitud hippie por algún lado. Es una actitud que nació con el caftán puesto.
Al finalizar la década, Inglaterra había cambiado totalmente. Nació la cultura joven. La protesta política tomó las calles. Y el respeto ciego e incondicional se fue para siempre. Los Beatles personificaron esta revolución social. En el devenir histórico de las décadas siguientes, muchos de estos cambios se hicieron permanentes. Verdaderamente el mundo nunca volvió a ser el mismo.